you're seeing that with agents, we are, again, completely changing the game of digital asset management, right? So it is across the asset lifecycle, from creating, managing, distributing, analyzing them. It is opening up so many new opportunities for, again, our customers, which is essentially unlocking tremendous amount of value, right? That is what, again, the Agentic AI platform does.
Welcome back at the Digital Advantage. I'm your host, Michiel Maandag. And today we're going to talk about the significant shift in the enterprise system of record. You might have guessed it, we're going to talk about agents. And to really break this topic down with me, I have Dominique Leblond, our Chief Product Officer at Minder, and Murat Akiol, our Senior Vice President of Strategy. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's set the scene. We see in headlines continuously AI, and we know that our customers are rapidly accelerating using AI. Of course, with AI, there's more content, there's more personalization, there's more touch points you can actually bring your content and drive that value. But there's also another side to it. You need to be able to manage all of that content in a very efficient way, and of course, the governance surrounding it, not allowing the AI to do things that it shouldn't do. And this is really where agents come in. With agents, we address both sides of the coin. One side, it's all about driving that efficiency, driving the business outcomes. But on the other side, we help to really address all these governance challenges. Now, before we dive in all the details, maybe a very fundamental question to you, Murat. What is actually an AI agent?
Good question, Michiel. So what is an AI agent? It's, I would say, the latest technology where you combine large language models, agentic frameworks, which enables enterprises and customers to take the instructions that you give to an agent, and the agent is smart enough to reason, but also perform actions based on instruction, which opens up so many different opportunities. And that is what agents are in its base. Essentially, well, you can see it also like as digital workers that is doing the busy work for you. So I will leave it there on what agents are and share more examples later on.
Yeah, so that sounds really interesting. We'll talk later, of course, about the control also that surrounds that. But if you think about like the basic enterprise system of record and you bring it all the way to agents, what are sort of the difference in layers there?
Yeah, definitely. So if you look at digital asset management in general, right? So enterprises managing their assets, and especially in the era of AI, making sure that you are in control of your own brand approved assets. That's where you have a system of record for, right? Which again, essentially is where you manage your assets end to end. And now, if you want to get more value out of your system of record, you essentially make sure that your system of record is integrated, both upstream and downstream, right, with your adjacent technologies. And it is what enables you to be in control not only of your assets, but also of the delivery, especially in the world where we live. Personalization is key, right? That is where a system of record is, again, integrated and becomes more strategic for your business within your organization. That is what comes with, again, the strategic deployment that you have. Agentic AI adds a new layer to
so it's
this.
like the third layer, actually.
Yeah, essentially, like it's an evolution. Like I wouldn't per se layer it, but it's an evolution where, again, on a system of record in a strategic deployment, you ask the system to perform a task for you. There is workflows, and it comes with a certain output. With agentic AI, you can essentially leverage agents to automate this task with intelligence, with huge amounts of data that it's pre-trained on. So it comes with the intelligence to reason and perform the tasks for you, which is, again, essentially a complete game changer in the industry and a step change that we see for our customers.
Wow. And one of the things I sort of hear, like when you talk about this, is that it really understands what it's operating in. So when we think about context, and I know, Dom, you have been using that word context before. How important is context in the context of agents?
So I think Murat talked about having an LLM and the intelligence. I think if you look at context, it allows the ability to essentially make your agents adaptable, so they're able to change. So if you look at a very simple example, if you would have an agent analyzing an image for SEO, a campaign image, it would to create a description. It would create a description with possibly your brand, your product brand, depending what your extraction would be. If you would add context and say, okay, this is for a visually impaired person, it would create that description differently. So it would probably pay more attention to what is in the imagery itself so that someone that's visually impaired can see it. So context makes an agent be ultimately extremely scalable, because I think as you look at assets and content, you're going to have constantly a different context, different products, different brands, and your agents are able to adapt to that context. So unlike maybe an automation rules, which is deterministic, if then else, an agent is able to adjust based on the context to perform its action better. So I think that's really
very different than automate than just
it's
standard
very
step
different.
process
I think both are valuable, but I think agents really unlock a lot more scalability, but also adaptability. And I think that's really, if you look at, a modern system of record that's strategically deployed, you have hundreds of thousands of assets. An agent is able to deploy, and depending on the context of those assets, perform its tasks differently. Whereas a rule, all of them would have to be scripted individually to be able to map to that context. So that's really where the elasticity comes in from agents. So that's why it's revolutionary, as Murat mentioned, as part of the industry.
Yeah, it really sounds like, it almost sounds to me like in the retail we have location, right? That's the key thing. And here it's context. Context
is absolutely. Context is king when it comes to agentic AI.
Hey, then once that context is applied, of course, like as an end user, you want to be able to control, right? Like in the opening I mentioned, companies are really plowing forward, but there is always this fear about uncontrolled AI. How is that with agents?
So I think agents are great, contexts are there, but I think having a human in the loop or human-led agentic AI, I think is our philosophy and our approach to it. So I think you do need to have some level of control and governance to, course correct where things are at. So I think being able to, certain tasks will be probably over time completely automated through agents, but you're always going to have, if you have sensitive content or regulatory requirements, have a human in the loop that's able to control. But more importantly, make sure that you can also control where your agents are being deployed and where they're using it. So you can actually apply permissions in terms of how your agents are performing actions, who can initiate agents, and how they can be configured. And I think that level of control is really what you want to have at scale, because the last thing we want is those digital workers to go wild and do whatever they want. We do want to make sure that we can actually deploy them effectively as part of our overall system of record.
Same with our customers, what are they most surprised with when it comes to actually this level of control? Because it sounds really that we have really looked at it from end to end, like providing on all the steps the necessary flows where you can actually have an input.
Yeah, so if you look at customers, the use cases our customers are coming back is obviously when you look at enrichment, for example, being able to generate classification metadata, which is a large part of how with a system of records we organize our content. So think of it as shelves. So if you think of a grocery store where you have all the different sections of the grocery store, your content is categorized and structured that way. So our customers are seeing control in terms of, okay, we want to apply our enrichment at the upload process, or we want to apply a compliance validation as part of our approval process. So I think this is where they have control about where they want specific agent to perform their tasks across the entirety of the asset lifecycle. And that level of control is really what surprises them. I would say what is probably more impressive is the reasoning these agents are able to do. So if you start applying different prompts and different capabilities, and I think we have these sessions with our customers where we're doing discovery, joint discovery. What if we could do this with an agent? And then we create a prompt. I think it's always like there's always a jaw-dropping moment where we're able to, for example, can we detect if alcohol containers are open or closed? And then let's write an agent that will do that and then classify the content differently. And then I think just the accuracy level and the quality, I think, is where I think the biggest surprise come from.
Very nice. So you mentioned actually also the enrichment agent. So Murat, can you maybe describe the enrichment agent? What does it do, and sort of what are key use cases we see with customers who are having adopted the enrichment agent, and what actually their value is that they currently drive using the enrichment agent?
Yeah, very good question. So maybe before explaining the enrichment agent, to give some insights into how complex the management of assets are and the ingestion of assets are. Right? So if you look at our platform at Binder, only in the last 18 months, our customers have ingested, uploaded, more than 50% of all assets all time. And this is not slowing down. So this is only growing, and more assets are being created, being generated, being ingested. And to manage your assets, you need to make sure that they are basically enriched with the right set of metadata, right? And what we see happening among our customers, again, having 1 million of assets or more is the standard already, right? The assets grow, but the people that do the job are not growing with it. So people are expected to be more efficient and to do more with less. And we have seen examples of customers where, let's say, in a batch of, I don't know, 10,000 or 20 or 30,000 assets, they cannot keep up with the task of enriching assets. No, of course not. For example, with generating an alt text for images, because they have to be compliant with their websites, etc. What they are doing is they just skip the task. And with that, they are getting exposed to, again, compliance risk or brand inconsistency risks. And this is exactly where the enrichment agent comes in. So it is essentially an agent where you can augment your workforce to be that extension of what you are trying to do with your assets and let an agent to do that. And how it works, the enrichment agent, to answer your question now, Michiel, you can create an agent where you want to basically generate an alt text maybe in 5 or 10 different languages. And you instruct it once, and it will do the job for you whenever you want, at upload or for existing asset, doesn't matter. Or the other one, detecting alcohol consumption, right? You create an agent and it will perform the task maybe on certain conditions that you also have. And this is what problem we are trying to solve for our customers, really to help increase the productivity and the gains that comes with it, help them become more compliant in the industry with their assets, etc., but also driving business outcomes. So that is what the enrichment agent does.
Wow. Yeah. Is it then also able to understand, let's say, certain fields and values that are, for example, associated with an asset, and actually turn that enrichment into an additional workflow even?
Yeah, yes, that's also possible. So it is very versatile, right? So you are in control. Like when Dom said, like our philosophy when it comes to AI is that our customers are in control, both how AI is deployed, but also that it's human-led and AI-powered, everything that you are doing. Which essentially also means that you can instruct an agent and provide the guardrails that you want to execute on. And now when it comes to the enrichment agent, it is not a separate product or technology next to your digital asset management platform or your system of record. It is purpose-built for digital asset management solutions, which also means it's seamlessly integrated with your assets, with your taxonomy, with the context, going back to what was shared earlier, that you can bring in when executing or letting this agent do the busy work. So that's why, again, we see or getting great feedback. And I think only this year we talked to over 200 customers and got their feedback. And that's where the value that they get out of it is really immense.
Yeah, and I think Murad didn't talk to the scale, but if you look at that alt text use case and you take an asset back with hundreds of thousands of assets, it would take months for a human to go through, review, and edit. Those agents are able to perform that, in the background in hours, essentially. So they can go through.
And then even using the context already available in the enterprise system of record, the metadata that's been set already, and pre-use.
Read the metadata, and also I think it allows us to start creating much, much, much richer metadata models. Because I think historically we'd had the human limitation. Yeah. Like there's not going to be hundreds of fields you want to manage. It's too costly, too time-consuming. But if you want to start having classification that's around the composition of your asset, is there people in it? Is there certain color balance? You can start adding those different attributes so that downstream, as part of your experience, you can start leveraging them. So to unlock new personalization use cases where on the personalization side, customer data is structured, so we know demographic, gender, and so forth. Content was very difficult to structure, so that's why we had very often, persona-based or, hero campaigns around audience groups. But I think with agentic AI, we're able to start adding much more dimensions there so that the variants will be able to personalize again. So this notion of hyper-personalization really becomes possible because of the advent of agentic AI.
And then even in the different channels as well.
Yeah.
Can you give us examples how the enrichment agent is employed?
Yeah, by now I think I have hundreds of them, Michiel.
Wow.
But what I see, like in the consumer packaged goods industry, or with enterprises in the alcohol, spirits industry, etc. Again, they have a lot of these product shots and product images. They want to automate, again, what is the product, or is it a 6-pack or 12-pack, or what's the volume of the beverage or the drink that's in there. So those are really tasks that you can easily automate with the agents, and this is, again, one industry, one vertical where we you can see agent examples being leveraged.
Yeah. I think what we see a lot as well is identifying brands and sub-brands.
Right.
So, and also
For the
leveraging
categories, right?
the product categories and leveraging existing metadata. So making sure that the content model is consistent and systematic. Because I think what happens with human over time is that there's errors, there's lack of classification. I think the agents allow us to keep the standard at the same level. So having all your product on brand, sub-brand, really automated as part of the enrichment flow.
So Dom, you talked about personalization and asset creation. There, of course, we see with the transformation agent a huge opportunity in terms of the operations and content operations. Can you deep dive a little bit more in the transformation agent and also the personas we are targeting there?
Yeah. No, so I think if you look at the content supply chain, so really we talked about enrichment and metadata and classification, organizing our content, permissioning it to get there. I think the transformation agent is really about repurposing content. So how do we basically extend, if you like, the shelf life of your content? So being able to, resize, upscale. So I think, taking a small asset, making it bigger, and using generative AI technologies as part of that to basically enhance the assets. So I think if we look at what we're able to do is we're able to take on-brand content and repurpose it for different use cases. For example, in personalization, this can be about generating different background imagery. So
for e-commerce.
For e-commerce use cases. So if we want to target and personalize around region and location, so if we're selling watches and we want to personalize the experience in Amsterdam or in London, we can actually use that as part of our experience and generate that through the transformation agent. So the target persona is in a way where we've always been, when we looked at content operations, how do we basically drive more automation when it comes to creative? So basically, how do we basically make the average marketer being able to become a very strong creative? And I think that's where the transformation starts shining, because it allows you as a brand manager to be able to also start doing creative jobs for your content and start creating more variants for your campaigns, so more lifestyle imagery. But what we do is we preserve the on-brand asset to be on point. So I think, the one thing that generative AI sometimes we see does is it will hallucinate or change the core practice. Exactly. The way the transformation agent works is you're able to really isolate your brand content, your brand imagery, so if it's a perfume bottle or if it's a watch, and then the rest of the asset can be manipulated through AI, but the core brand asset that you care about as brand manager is not modified. So I think that's really one of the unique aspects of the transformation agent.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it's also like the time to adaptation is of course getting shorter and shorter with actually the transformation agent. So Murat, if you kind of think about like the companies actually utilizing the transformation agent, how does that affect like the creative teams, the agencies? Do they start creating even more content? How does that all work?
Yeah, I was talking to a customer last week actually, who is again selling sport apparel in different retailers, and this, I think it's typical to most of these companies, is where they again do product photo shoots with models or only, let's say, the product itself. And then the process starts of transforming this for different channels, for different requirements, etc. This is often where, for the most basic, most simple operations, like removing a background or adding a different background color or having a shadow, that again, they are dependent on manual work, often with agencies, which is considered basically low value work, because it can be now easily automated with the transformation agent as well. Not only is it, again, automating the work itself, maybe also reducing the costs that you have there, but it also decreases your time to market, which is seen as also one of the big struggles to, again, make your assets ready for the different channels, different requirements. And of course, this is where transformation agent is from big value.
And you can go even wider in even more channels, right?
Exactly, right? So what you can do, because it's generative AI, it can also generate new things for you without having to go back to maybe a photo shoot that you have to plan, contract people, be on that spot, and everything needs to be basically okay with the weather and then all of that. So you are eliminating a lot of the steps there, which is, again, also giving you competitive advantage. So if you are selling products and you are distributing your assets to the different retailers or marketplaces, you will see that all of them have different requirements, and you want to make sure that your product and your brand is represented the best way possible. So with transformation capabilities, you can crop an asset. However, with the transformation agent, you can also extend it and make it fit to the different requirements, which ensures that you don't end up with this, the white parts on the left and the right, which again has a negative impact on your brand and product experience. So this is an example what we see, like, okay, yes, this is otherwise a lot of manual work, and if we don't do it and if we skip it, it doesn't help us with our online presence. this is where the transformation agent is leveraged to, again, deliver that exceptional content experience in those different channels.
Wow, so not only is making the time to the actual publication shorter, doing it in the exact right requirements for the best experience to drive like clicks, e-commerce sales, etc.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it, that if you look at the average retailer, they'll be pushing their content to 20 plus marketplaces. And I think what it also solves is it's preemptive. So rather than having a rejection downstream and then having to rework at the end of the publishing cycle, everything is pre-calculated and the agent is able to preemptively make sure that your content will respect the rules of those different marketplaces and e-commerce channels you're publishing to.
And you can then trigger this in your workflows all the way from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Wow. So then if you take that forward, so once assets actually leave the enterprise system of record, because if they of course managed in our system and we manage the websites and then they stay, but sometimes they also go outside. So how do we handle that? So how do we help customers to actually track where assets are being used, how they're being used? Dom, could you maybe do a little deep dive on that?
So I don't think they don't leave the system of record. I think they get put to use, right? They get activated. So I think content gets activated. So I think that's really where it goes into channel. We also have a governance agent. So the governance agent allows us to essentially look at, where your content is at, the public-facing web, if you like, and really look at all the different variations, exact or not, that exist for your assets that are currently in use. So we're able to look at partner websites, external websites, and I think we're able to actually identify where all those contents are at. And the benefit is oftentimes what happens is our customers want to understand if someone downloaded an asset, has repurposed it or used it, are they using it within the brand guidelines, within the brand rules? And I think the governance agents allows them to essentially track and see that use, but also start identifying where they need to course correct, or if a campaign is activated, is it activated in the right channel, in the right market? So they're able to actually see the completeness of where their assets are at, not just in what they've distributed, but also what others have done if they've further distributed down the chain the content.
So Murat, if you kind of think about some of use cases in verticals, like on the governance agent, what do you see there? Like if you sort of build on the observations from Dom.
Yeah, so companies really want to be in control of their assets and their online presence as well, right? So, and yes, to your point, like if an asset is activated, but also maybe sometimes leave them, you don't maybe have oversight into where they are used. The use cases when talking to customers, again, it's in the context of control and governance. Often you see that they have contracted a model and a photo shoot and they are allowed to use that asset until, say, January 1st. And beyond the date, they are not allowed to use it anymore. So
you start to pay.
Exactly. And then the governance agent helps them to, again, identify or filter those assets, maybe with a certain archive date or automatically trigger this, and scan the web for you to identify where they are used, which again gives you insights and control over those websites. So this is one example. We also see the opposite example, which is like customers want to understand the performance of their assets. And in that case, it is good if it's distributed on as many as possible.
So the external
websites. Exactly.
Yes.
Which then is more like the reach of your assets and the websites that you serve. So those are some of the examples that we see, and there's more use cases, but this is, I think, what we see or what we hear most often.
Yeah. So very nice. Yeah. So very nice. We have now looked at the three agents. The enrichment agent, which is all about, like, of course, enriching the assets and making sure that that even can trigger workflows as well as finding it in all kinds of other use cases. Transformation of assets using the transformation agent. We went in the deep there, and also like the governance. So really understanding where assets are being used externally, what is the reach, but also, the use cases you were mentioning earlier. So lots of examples that really show how agents can empower these use cases and how they can really drive business. But at the same time, where we started also, can help to actually manage these governance challenges. Right, so it is that nice combination, but both of those do. Now, if we kind of look at the roadmap, then going forward to the first quarter of 2026. Dom, we have another agent.
We have more than one in the works. I think we have a lot cooking. I'll probably let Murat answer the next one because I think it's one of his babies, if you like, from an agent standpoint. So.
Yes, good one, especially on three agents. I think what you maybe before answering what's coming next, Michiel, you are seeing that with agents, we are, again, completely changing the game of digital asset management, right? So it is across the asset lifecycle, from creating, managing, distributing, analyzing them. It is opening up so many new opportunities for, again, our customers. which is essentially unlocking tremendous amount of value, right? That is what, again, the agentic AI platform does. We talk about 3 agents, but essentially our customers are able to create unlimited number of agents within the platform, right? So an enrichment, governance, transformation are like the group of agents that we have, but underneath they can just create unlimited set of agents. And it is a platform that, like these 3 agents as well, we are continuously innovating, making sure that we leverage the latest models and that we optimize them also for, again, our customers' use cases. So again, really exciting, the feedback we are getting from our customers in the industry. What's coming next, right? Good question. What we know from our customers, especially in the era that we live with AI, where generation of assets, it's easy, it's cheap, but again, not always on brand or not always compliant with your brand rules or policies
definitely.
or organizational rules or policies. So customers want to be in control also on that front. And that's why we came up with the compliance agent, which is essentially going to help you to be in control of your assets if they are on brand, if they are compliant with maybe certain policies. So it's not only about your brand rules, but also about certain things that our customers don't want to see in their assets. For example, weapons or competitor logos or different things where you can define your own rules. And based on that rules, the compliance agent is doing the hard work. You can run it at upload to prevent maybe assets that are not compliant to enter your DEM, or you can also do it for your existing asset and see what is not compliant anymore. And if you see things that are not compliant, and maybe they are already activated in certain portals, you can trigger the governance agent to, again, find that same asset that was maybe not compliant, right?
Wow. So that's how they really work together.
And what you're seeing is the automated workflows across the agents is where and how the agentic AI is, going back to your first question, is adding value and what the agents are. So there's different use cases and of course types of companies as well where it is relevant. Often we work together with companies that have multiple brands or multiple products where they manage different, again, brands as well, which all need to be compliant. What we see in these organizations is that there's often a creative director or type of role who is approving assets that are being generated. And again, I talked before about the amount of assets that are being generated, etc. So doing these checks manually over and over again basically imposes a bottleneck, right? So that everything needs to go to the creative director in this case. So the compliance agent, again, there is augmenting your workforce, helping you to do these checks, maybe as a first step or maybe as a last step, depending on your workflow and your needs. And this is where the compliance agent kicks in, right? So really helping you to scale as an organization, but also create on-brand and compliant.
And so we report as an example on color usage, type of photography that is used.
Yeah, it could be anything, right? So it could be logo usage, color usage, but it could also be regulatory compliance rules, right? Is there a certain maybe statement on the asset that is required? Or are there certain objects that you want to detect and identify that should not be there? Or is there text on it from an accessibility point of view that you want to detect? So it's a variety of use cases and pretty versatile in how you and what you can instruct. And it consists of, again, like specialized tools behind that can help you execute on this task.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
That's the compliance agent. That's actually about to be made available to our customers. And we are working hard for our customers. So there's still a lot of innovations that are coming, also as part of our Binder Labs initiative. But more on that probably later. So.
Yeah, it's really nice. Like I think you used once the quote, solving the impossible, right? So like it seems to be that we are doing this at this right moment, especially when we really bring these agents together and let them talk to each other to drive these benefits. So we have started the episode with a shift, right? So where with agentic AI, the enterprise system of record really becomes foundational for business, driving tangible outcomes, driving business results, allowing to actually publish and getting to much more touch points as we see today. Now I can imagine that you actually want to get started with this. So how do we do that, Murat?
Yeah, really good question. And yeah, we'd love to see as many as possible customers getting started with this to get value out of it. I think it really depends on the customer and the organization. Like we talk to so many different enterprises, and the maturity and adoption of AI within an organization differs, right? Some of them are really at the forefront, others require maybe more help and support. So essentially what we did to help our customers with this is we have introduced Binder Accelerate, which is a specialized go-to-market team that is bringing AI agents to our customers and support and work together with them, including partners that we have to get you started. So the product itself, it's again doesn't require any configuration, any implementation, or any coding. So you can get started with again natural language prompts. But also there we have the expertise with specialized people in AI that can help you get started. So I would say reach out to your customer success manager, and with that to the Binder Accelerate team that can help you get going with this.
Wow, that sounds really good. So really hope that many of you will do that today. Thank you, Murat. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in the Digital Advantage podcast, and hope to see you again very soon.